Today on CCX News, fire rips through a Golden Valley office complex, who it impacted, and why federal investigators say they suspect arson. The fire damaged the offices of several conservative organizations in a building south of Interstate 394 and east of Highway 169. As Delaney Cleveland reports, tenants in the building believe their offices were targeted.
I think there's some disruption and some uneasiness about somebody would want to do this to our buildings.
Bill Walsh says it's been a week unlike any other.
Well, we got an email from our boss on Sunday saying that the building there was a fire in the building over the weekend, and that we would have our normal staff meeting on Monday morning by Zoom.
Walsh works for the conservative think tank, the Center of the American Experiment, located on the first floor. Walsh says his office, along with two other conservative organizations, Take Charge of Minnesota on the first floor and the Upper Midwest Law Center on the third floor, all sustained damage in a fire that occurred during the early morning hours of January 28th. The ATF is investigating it as a case of arson.
It's not random. It's not. They didn't hit the chiropractor or the counseling office or the accounting office. They hit these three conservative groups, these three public policy groups.
A spokesperson for the ATF says she couldn't confirm whether the affected businesses were, in fact, targeted due to the ongoing investigation. In the meantime, Walsh says if an arsonist was trying to send a message, his organization won't be deterred.
Nothing like this is going to slow us down. We'll find office space here or somewhere else soon and get back to work in the office, but we're not missing a beat. So if they're trying to send a message, it's really not going to work.
In Golden Valley, Delaney Cleveland, CCX News.
A Brooklyn Park man is now charged in a robbery that resulted in the lockdown of Hennepin Technical College earlier this week. Franchiel Davis is charged with robbery. According to the criminal complaint, Davis is accused of stealing a cell phone from his ex-girlfriend, then pointing a gun at her in the parking lot of the college's Brooklyn Park campus on Tuesday afternoon. The complaint says Davis then took off and went inside the school. The incident led to a lockdown that lasted for about an hour and a half. Police say they found the suspect hiding in a bathroom. Officers found the victim's cell phone, but did not locate the firearm. Osseo City Hall was originally built in the 1960s, but as the city's staff has grown, officials say it may be time for a rebuild. Osseo's government campus houses City Hall, the community center, the library, and the city's public safety departments. According to city officials, the building has structural issues and is too small for the growing police department. The city council discussed remodeling or rebuilding the campus this week, and the project would likely cost between $16 and $24 million. But the city only has the borrowing and tax capacity to bring in about $13 million for the project.
We can't steal the money, so we're going to have to beg or borrow for it somehow, to figure out how we're going to be able to do this. Or we acknowledge the fact that nobody's saying is that this project just can't get done.
The city hasn't made any final decisions. They're expecting to ask the state legislature for funding this session. They're also considering a new sales tax to help pay for the rebuild. The Twin Cities generates about 3 million tons of trash a year. With landfills getting filled up, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency released a plan this week to cut down on all the waste. As Kevin Miller reports, a big part of that plan is organics recycling.
The Hennepin County Recycling and Transfer Station in Brooklyn Park sees about 500 tons of trash and recycling every day. A little more than half of the trash ends up in a landfill.
We do still see some recyclables in the trash.
Carolyn Colopy is a waste reduction manager for Hennepin County. She says overstuffed landfills are a problem for everyone.
Taxpayers pay a lot of money in this state to maintain landfills after they're closed. There's always a risk to our groundwater.
It's an issue the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency is looking to address in its new solid waste plan. It's an update to a long-term plan to divert trash away from landfills.
By 2030, we need to meet this state goal, and 75% of what is generated as waste needs to be diverted for recycling or composting. It's a very aggressive goal.
Organics recycling turns thrown away fruits, vegetables, and pizza boxes into compost. The state and the county are asking more people to give it a try. Colopy knows that can be a tough ask.
For those that are on the fence or those that feel like it's too much work, it's really digging deeper and trying to figure out, okay, how do we make this work for you in your home? Because it is going to be different for everyone.
But Colopy says it's worth the extra effort.
We really need to change for the betterment of the planet, the betterment of our future, our children. What do we want to leave them?
In Brooklyn Park, Kevin Miller, CCX News.
The state also recommends buying used and making reusable products a part of your daily routine. The dry winter isn't boding well for the health of Minnesota trees. The past 3 summers have been drought years. Winter snow melt can help replenish trees in need of moisture, but without any snowfall, those trees are coming up dry. Plymouth City Forester Paul Buck says dry trees are more likely victims of invasive species like emerald ash borer.
Every tree really does kind of count. It doesn't feel like it should be that big of a deal, but if we start losing more and more of them, yes, it will just kind of compound the problem.
And you can check if your tree is healthy by paying attention to growth patterns on the branches. Buck says you can also keep trees hydrated by watering the trees after the ground thaws. Finally, this segment, the City of New Hope seen through a different lens. The city recently held its annual photography contest. Here's a look at the winners as selected by a panel of judges.
In the past 2 weeks, Wayzata girls basketball came up short of potential upsets over Hopkins and St. Michael Albertville. On Thursday night, the Trojans got another crack at a ranked Class 4A team hosting Minnetonka. Ches Moots has the highlights.
Wayzata and Minnetonka both chasing Hopkins atop of the Lake Conference standings. First half, how about this one-handed scoop shot from Sarah Hyde? Gets the roll, things going Wayzata's way. Then some good defense from the Trojans. A tip pass ends up in the hands of Kate Amelet. She finds Sophie Hawkinson in stride. Wayzata took a 17-point lead in a halftime. The Skippers weren't going to go down easy. Aaliyah Crump fadeaway from the right elbow, silky smooth. She had 17 for Tonka. That cut the lead to single digits. Wayzata answering right back. Marn Day can't hit the three, but Hyde cleans up the glass on the backside. She puts in the reverse. Hyde had 14. A few possessions later, Day is left alone on a fast break. The freshman lays it in and takes the contact, bucket, and the foul. The Trojans held off Tonka the rest of the way, winning 69-63. Hawkinson led the way with 17 points.
We're a very young team, so I think we knew we could do it, but I think that just proved to ourselves how good we can be, and just building up those younger players' confidence and just getting it here on the big stage and getting the win is really big for us. It's just amazing because we worked so hard that game, it felt like forever, so just when that horn went off, it's just a sigh of relief to get the job done and get the win.
In Plymouth, Chaz Moots, CCX Sports.
After slow starts, the Champlin Park and Armstrong boys basketball teams have been playing well of late. Jay Wilcox has highlights from their Thursday night matchup.
Armstrong playing host to Champlin Park in a battle of two surging teams in the Northwest Suburban Conference in boys basketball. Amory Peterson helps the Rebels to a strong start. This three is part of a 15-point first half for Peterson. Seth Newbern drives for a tough layup for Armstrong on his way to an 18-point night before fouling out. Champlin Park has a good first half. Peterson the steal, and he sets up Dominic Mueller for the dunk as the Rebels lead at 42-37 at the halftime break. Second half, and Desmond Ware gets the steal and sets up Charles Duncan for the layup plus a foul. Armstrong grabs a 50-48 lead. They go inside to Fitz Freeman for the hoop, and the Falcons are up by 4. Late in the game, Champlin Park is down by 2, but Peterson finds Kwasilikpo on the back cut for 2 to tie it at 70-70. No timeout for Armstrong, and Joel Saw gets it to Navon Fields, and he delivers the clutch 3 at the buzzer, his 4th of the night, as Armstrong pulls out a thriller 73-70 over Champlin Park. Jay Wilcox, CCX Sports.
The Maple Grove boys hockey team was skating for a 4th straight conference win in the Northwest Suburban Thursday against a Totino-Grace team that scored a big win last week over Rogers.
The Eagles on home ice at Brooklyn Park Arena to take on the 5th-ranked Crimson. It doesn't take long for Maple Grove to get on the board. Tommy Picconato passes to Lucas Bush in the slot, and he drives a shot home for a goal. It's 1-0 less than 2 minutes into the game. Later in the first, Connor Stelges feeds Owen Smith. He fires a shot into the back of the Eagles' net. It's a power play goal for the Crimson, and they lead it 2-0. Same score in the second period when the Eagles turn it over in their own end. David Kukkonen quickly feeds Bush for his second goal of the night. It's 3-0 Maple Grove. And the Crimson score a flurry of goals late in the period. Bush again skates into the Eagles' zone, shoots and scores for his third of the game to make it 4-0. Just over a minute later, a great breakout pass from Stelges to Jackson Kuznick, who skates in alone and rips a shot in. It's 5-0. Final minute now of the second period, and Bush sets up Smith. He nets his second power play goal of the game. 3 goals in the final 4 minutes of the second period make it 6-0. Maple Grove goes on to beat Totino-Grace 8-1. John Jacobson, CCX Sports. Find more prep sports games and highlights at ccxmedia.org and follow us on social media.